everyone, and welcome to the final video, the last part 3 in the end, of the final session for Dragon of Icespire's Peak. What a journey it has been. It's been fantastic. It was a really great session, you know, playing online with everyone. For everyone who wanted to know, we've been using Discord as a way to play our games. It really just seems like an easier way. We throw the cameras on, we talk, I send pictures of maps. Sometimes I'll get out the map and set up a second camera to show where players are, depending. It's a whole setup. But thank you so much for joining us for the final video. Comment down below anything you would like to say. Comment down below how your sessions are going. And let's get straight into what happened. So, last we left our players, they were camping with the orcs, intending to finally go to Crovane's lair. Now, using all the information that they had, that white dragons are aggressive, that they're animalistic, they're bestial, that they can burrow, that they fly, they have ice breath weapons, that they have thick hides, they're difficult to hit, all of this made them really think about, well, where do we want to fight the dragon? And there was a lot of back and forth. Do we want to lure the dragon out, so that way it won't be in its lair? Or do we want to go into its lair and fight the dragon where it can't fly? Now, the thing was, there was a lot of back and forth. Well, it can't fly in its lair, however, it can burrow, so it can just dig around and around and around. But then on top of that, as far as we know, it's just a one straight line in, and these breath weapons are just going to keep coming. We don't know how often they regenerate. We don't know if they ever run out. We don't know how the distance on them. A lot of really valid questions that they didn't actually end up getting when they were researching about the dragons. I don't know how they got to the point of thinking that a dragon outside of its lair with the ability to fly was going to be the best idea, but based on the spell choices, I think that's what really lured them to an outdoor battle. So Tig took Call Lightning and just didn't want to go inside, because what a great spell that she could use in a battle if the sky literally was the limit. So, and on top of that, everyone had ranged options, except for Gobbleknock, but there were options to try and get Crovane down onto the ground. And again, they didn't know that the breath weapon was on a recharge scale and that it couldn't just keep blasting over and over again. That was a risk that they decided to take. So, they traveled up the mountain. They spent half the day. And once they got up there, they saw it. They saw the ruins of where these dwarves had originally built and lived, and then also where the orcs had taken over when they moved in, essentially. And they came to this outdoor area, basically where there's pillars, and then they could see the entrance. But the entrance didn't have, and I'm really sure, I couldn't believe they didn't pick up on this, but the entrance didn't actually have a hole big enough for Crovane to walk out of. There were these big, long, thick pillars that humanoids would kind of walk through. And so they even questioned, how does he get out? But it didn't really click that he had probably burrowed a second way, his own way in, which means that would be his own way out. So they set themselves up, ready to lure out Crovane. And the way they did it, which I'm pretty happy with, is they got out some of their cantrics. They had 3 left of the 5, because they gave 2 to Venom Fang. And they tossed them. They tossed all 3 in the hopes that one would create a loud booming sound. And so they rolled the dice, and they were very lucky. One of them did indeed set off a large boom sound. I think it was through Prestidigitation, or possibly not Thunderwave, because that's a level 1 spell, but there was definitely an option where a boom went off. I think it was the Booming Blade cantrip, and so I just allowed the sound to actually erupt from it, because I didn't really want to be that dick and go, oh, sorry, my homebrew thing doesn't quite make sense. So I allowed to stretch the rules there, because it was still an experimental item. And so once that happened, they waited, and they waited. And then we rolled initiative, because some undead, frozen zombie orcs had risen once this had happened, because their lives were cut too short, and so they became zombified and became guards for Crovane. And they were very concerned about that, because upon round 2, Crowvane erupted from the side of the mountain, flying out from where he had originally burrowed in, which answered their question as to, oh, that's how he got in. That's where he's not coming out the front. And they'd full planned a frontal assault, which was very interesting. It taught them a lot about how, you know, sometimes your plans don't go to work, but that doesn't mean you give up on them. So they started their battle, and basically Crowvane came out and just started with the first breath weapon, and that dropped them down to about half their hit points because they were all bunched up. Gobbledoc went into his rage, and then basically he took on all the orcs on his own because he couldn't really reach Crowvane, which they all knew was going to happen. We had Tig, who called down lightning and just started blasting Crowvane, which was fantastic. We had Bubbles, who didn't really have many options, so she was throwing darts for a while, which was pretty entertaining. Unfortunately, we had Rain the Paladin, who also, close combat, didn't have much option. However, very smart, really great, she threw out a command to Crowvane. And that command was land. Or bow, one of those. But basically it was to land to the ground and go prone. And so Crowvane failed the saving throw, the wisdom saving throw, because they are not that wise of a young dragon. And the group erupted. They were so excited. They knew what this meant because they had used this tactic once before. And so they positioned themselves well enough. Crowvane landed down on the ground, and then they all used their actions to belt him as hard as they could, dropping in smites, going for the Great Weapon Master -5, but the +10 damage, and succeeding, which was insane. Getting a natural 20 from Bubbles, and then going on with a flurry of blows to continue the barrage of damage. And then on top of that, Call Lightning comes down. Oh, it was beautiful. Now, it wasn't the end though. Crowvane wasn't done. Took a lot of damage. I think that got him to nearly bloodied. Very, very close. And I decided that when he got bloodied, he was going to flee, because little did they know, the cloud cover that Call Lightning had actually created meant that Venomfang was hiding above. And her plan was to swoop down and kill Crowvane at the last second, and then to dispose of the adventurers. And that's exactly what happened. On the next turn of next round, Crowvane did not get his breath weapon attack back. He decided to go for go for 2 claw attacks. I think there's a bite in there as well. Missed one of them, got 2 of the other ones. Didn't put anyone down just yet, but now everyone is well and truly on they're at half health. They're bloodied. And then Bubbles runs over and just flurry of blows, getting Crowvane down to half. Everyone else wails in, getting him further down by the end of all the damage that they put in. Not as big as last time, because there were a few nat 20s in that command spell. Crowvane was down to probably about 15 to 20 health. Nothing really much at all. And he began to fly away on his turn. He disengaged and began to fly away. And that's when Venomfang struck. The players thought they'd won. They went, yes, he's scared off. We did it. We didn't want to kill him in the end. We really just wanted to get rid of him, because that was the more moral high ground way of doing it. But Venomfang was not here for moral high ground. Venomfang was here for blood. So she flew down out of the thunderous clouds, dropped down onto Crowvane, dug her claws and her teeth into his body and tore him limb from limb. He had only 15, 20 health. She easily did that much damage, tore him apart, and landed in front of the group. And then we continued the battle. The players prepped themselves for dodges. They weren't too sure what was going to happen, but I instructed to them that you could see this murderous intent inside of her eyes. So a couple of dodge actions were taken, unsure what to do, and then a few Call Lightning was still going, as well as throwing some darts, and just some people weren't able to really physically get over to Venomfang. Upon which comes around to her turn, she unleashed her gas, her breath weapon. Now this was a big deal. It almost put everyone down. By this point, everyone is probably on like less than 10 hit points each. Now Tig is throwing out healing spell after healing spell, managing to keep everyone up. And you cannot believe this, but oh my goodness, it's honestly in my mind. I remember it's in my notes and it's crazy, but Goblinock runs over, goes for the -10, rolls a nat 20, deals an insane amount of damage. They're all level 5 by this point as well, so they're getting their extra attacks in as well. On top of that, Janet comes in as her barbarian, also drops in at 2 natural 20s after each other, just decimating Venomfang. Bubbles is now throwing off her flurry of blows, and they're like, we know we're gonna win, we know we've got this. And then, unfortunately, Rain misses her attack, but that's alright, it's okay, these things happen. Venomfang doesn't get her breath weapon back, but she flies up to get out of range. Then we have a turn where their ranged attacks dodging out of the way. Venomfang is not being hit at all, and I'm thinking, is she gonna leave? But there's that horde there. She probably could get it if she gets a breath weapon back. Then I reckon she'll stay, and she might try and get one. So we get around to her turn. Breath weapon, it comes back. She flies down, unleashes the breath weapon, drops Gobblenok, drops Bubbles, drops Janet. All we've got left is the cleric and the paladin. And what happens? Paladin runs over, leaps in the air, drops in a thunderous smite, and then also drops in a 2nd level smite, and then rolls a natural 20 and just destroys. Just insanely, you couldn't plan it. You just couldn't plan it to happen. Just every last bit that Rain had went into Venomfang, and they killed her. And it was amazing. After that, stabilized some people, got some healing in where possible, and that was the end of the session. We called it a day from there. It had been a long day. We played from about 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 p.m. at night, 11 p.m. at night. Obviously enough breaks in there, and, did a little epilogue of, very briefly, where would your players go now, and we got them back to Phandalin to thank them, and I thanked them as a DM, they thanked me as players, and that was it. It was a fantastic game. I really enjoyed it. It's such a shame that we didn't get to do our final session in person, but overall, I think everyone really, really came together for the online session. And it's one of those memorable ones. I'll never forget a paladin dropping in so much damage and critting on it. Like, it's just, it's so insane. And, it's one of those moments where as a DM, you can't help but go, well, how are you doing it? You got to explain how you kill the creature. So, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I have no idea where we'll be going from here. Constantly planning videos, constantly asking you to give me ideas, because I make these videos to help you, because I'm really just giving it from my point of view. I love it when people comment down below and we can have a discussion about, well, just anything D&D related. And yeah, we're nearly at 1,000 subscribers. As of filming this, 864. It's so close, and that's just the hallmark of a YouTuber, that's the very first goal, is get to the first 1,000. Because they say that your first 1,000 followers are your most valued in some way. And so I thank every single one of you for subscribing and sticking through with me, even though there was that break for a couple months. I can't wait to see what the next videos are. Have a great day.